I would like to share with you a devotional thought that is a very personal one, very precious to me. And I'm going to be reading some biblical passages from a little notebook in which I write passages that I'm trying to memorize, different kinds of passages, ones that I know will be helpful, some that I'm puzzled about and may still not be clear. Well, one night when I was repeating passages to my wife just before we went to sleep, I read to her this passage from Luke 12. It was one that I was a bit puzzled by, and when I read it to her, she had an interesting response. This is what I read. Luke 12, verses 47 and 48. That slave who knew what the master wanted, but did not get ready or do what was wanted, will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know and did what deserved a beating will receive a light beating. My wife exclaimed at that point, "Do you find that verse helpful?" And I told her that, well, I'm still working on it. It does illustrate the truth of proportionate rewards. But the next morning, I went back to my Bible and did some exploring and found something that was just really amazing. Now, there's one other verse that I had included here, and it's Luke chapter 17. The last verse is the one that is particularly true. Luke 17, 10. And I will read it here. It's actually Luke 17, verses 7 to 10, but as verse 10 is the most crucial one. Who among you would say to your slave who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep in the field, "Come here at once and take your place at the table"? Would you not rather say to him, "Prepare supper for me, put on your apron and serve me while I eat and drink? Later you may eat and drink." Do you thank the slave for doing what was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you were ordered to do, say, "We are worthless slaves. We have done only what we ought to have done." Now, I discovered that that last verse, which sounds so grim, had been very meaningful to me and also to a colleague. And as we compared notes, I concluded that both of us are very hard-driving people and kind of believe that if it's really up to us to finish the work, and that's a very important verse. So you, when you've done all you were ordered to do, say, "We are worthless slaves. We have done only what we ought to have done." But the next morning, when I went down and started looking around that passage that my wife had found trouble, in fact, I was still working on, I came across this passage with quite a different perspective. Let me read it to you as well. It's from Luke 12, 35 to 38. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. Amazing contrast. One in which the master says, "Not so fast. You do your work first." And the other one says, "Sit down, we're going to have a party, and I will come and serve you." Why the difference? There's always a tendency in my experience, because I'm so hard driving, to think that I can finish the work and I will get it done, and that's where the Lord says, no, it's not to you to finish the work. That's not your responsibility. You do only what your duty is. But on the other side, it is very important for me to be able to say, to be able to know that the God that I serve says to me, when you've done everything, we're going to have a party, and I'm going to serve you. Now, in my new Pacific Press book, Beyond Common Ground, Why Liberals and Conservatives Need One Another, I've emphasized the differences between people. In this particular passage, I've talked about two different needs myself. One, to protect against my pride. The other one, to emphasize the gracious God that I serve. In different times in my experience, I need both of those stories. So we don't need to be afraid of the contradictions in the Bible. There are messages there, just what we need to take us to the kingdom.